Okay, I got this.
Don't forget to hold the mic
Yeah,
when
of
you get
course, the earpiece, the mic. Oh, that's great. So, what about this? It's fine, right?
Yes, that sounds good.
And you know what? I will call this special episode, this episode of Global Arena as Global Arena Unscripted, because I've not scripted anything about it to talk about public speaking. So the idea just came into my head, just hit me, struck me, and I said, hey, since Gina London is an expert, a communication expert, let's talk about public speaking. This is something that is very much important. I'm very much happy, and I was very much happy when I saw your TEDx talk a couple of months ago, and you talked about something very powerful in front of a gathering of many people, young people and students, and so on and so forth. So that really is significant. You know what problem that we're facing here is that ladies, especially those, including those that are studying even at university, find it difficult to be public speakers. They want to be, of course, but unfortunately, it seems like they don't have the confidence to speak in front of the people, especially in front of men. That's really saddening and disheartening. And so I could use this Global Arena Unscripted episode to address this issue with you, since you are a woman. And when they see you as a woman, they will be inspired by you. And they will also be like, how can I say, they will feel happy that a woman like them has, reached a particular height in life, so much so that she's now an inspiration, a role model to not only journalists, but everyone in the world.
Thank you, Umar. Thank you, Umar. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Gina London, like Umar said. And you touched on a lot of things when you were beginning to introduce this topic. And I want to unpack a couple of them. I'm going to tell a little bit more about myself, but I'm going to give a teaser. Keep listening, because we're going to talk about this idea of confidence and experience and practice. Because what does confidence mean? Where does it come from? It's not a magic thing you just put on like a shirt. And the reason I want to make sure and incorporate the idea of experience and practice, because those experiences will give you the confidence and build that confidence. So please know that confidence is not a destination, it's a journey. And once you feel like you're getting it, it can also be eroded. You can have a couple of positive experiences and then one negative, and that puts you back on the back foot. So we talk about imposter syndrome, we talk about practice, we talk about development of your confidence over time. So why am I? Why do I have? Who am I? Why do I have authority to talk about this? Well, I'm now privileged to work with executives, business professional people all over the world on the strategies and the structure and the delivery tools to help them better connect, be it one-on-one, be it a big meeting, be it a gigantic presentation on a public stage with thousands and thousands of people in the audience, in person, virtual. This is the idea of becoming what I call a purposeful, intentional communicator. But I started out just like a little girl or a little boy, for those of the boys that are out there listening, from a small town. I had a neighbor who called me Mumbles when I was 8 years old, because I was going door to door in our neighborhood with my mother trying to sell Girl Scout cookies, which is a little tradition in the United States, a little box of cookies that you want to sell to raise money for the Girl Scouts of America. And
Yeah.
it's scary because you're a little kid and you have to go to someone's door, even if you know them, and say, hi, my name's Gina. Would you like to buy my Girl Scout cookies? It doesn't come out like that. It comes out really quickly and scary. And that
Oh,
very mean neighbor said, I can't hear you. I can't understand you, Mumble. Say it again.
oh my God. So
And
that's how you got the
discouraging
name Mumble.
that he would call me Mumbles. It's kind of funny, but it's also kind of heartbreaking. He called me that every time he saw me for the next 10 years.
Wow. So how did you feel at that time?
I felt horrible. I mean, and then there's another point I want to make for everyone listening. So not only did I have a neighbor label me early on, and please know a lot of how we think about ourselves, good and bad, comes from those formulative years. How do our parents describe us? How do teachers uplift us or discourage us? Are friends name calling or bullying, or are they supporting us? All of these things are part of who we are. So don't be ashamed if you wonder where your lack of confidence comes from or why you're labeling yourself a certain way, and be careful about that. Don't own the labels others put on you. Do not own the labels others put on you if it doesn't reinforce positivity or encouragement about what you can become. Do not let a label stand in the way of your growth. And I also was from a part of the world in the small town of Indiana where I grew up, where I had a very strong country accent, which
Wow.
other people from around the world, as you're listening, you might think, oh, well, my accent isn't clearly understood by others. What can I do about that? Well, you can still be who you are and develop your voice so that you're more projected, that you're more clear, that you might slow down how you speak. It's not about losing your identity or speaking with a fake accent. I'm American. I don't speak with a British accent or a French accent, but I have developed myself over time to neutralize my accent, because I went from being called Mumbles by that neighbor into studying journalism at university. And then over time, from newspapers into television, ultimately network television. I was a CNN reporter and anchor for almost 10 years.
Wow,
And
that's
now,
great.
as I mentioned, with my company, Language of Leadership, I coach and I train and I speak about becoming more purposeful about communication. So it's developable for anybody. It's not just a natural skill that some people have and others don't, but we have to have positive self-talk within ourselves first to start taking small incremental steps and building those experiences and learning from those experiences so that we become more purposeful and not how we are at our baseline. We all have a baseline ability of communications to some degree. And what I do is work with people to help them unpack all those seemingly millions of simultaneously happening aspects of communication. We identify them one by one and we repack them with purpose that aligns with our values. So we feel more confident as a result and comfortable about how we communicate in person, in public, on stage, in an interview, talking about your research material at university. It's for everyone and anyone.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. Among the businessmen and women that you're working with, the executives, the CEOs, um, do they find it difficult? Do they find it tough to speak in front of the public? So much so that you have to teach this, the art of public speaking to them bit by bit. Does that happen?
Yes, because dependent upon a person's ability or technical skill. For example, you might meet someone who's got a title that sounds really fantastic and they have gone through university and they've moved up in their company and now they're department head of whatever. But that doesn't mean that they have been trained alongside those technical skills, the techniques that will help them be more comfortable and make more memorable connections with an audience, because that's a skill set like the other things they've learned. So, like I said, it's not just natural. So, yes, for example, last December, I had the opportunity of working with the chief financial officer for Coca-Cola Europe. So this
Wow.
guy is very good at what he does. He certainly is a success by any measure. And he had not been in front of an in-person audience in almost 3 years because of lockdown, pandemic, and not traveling for corporate events, right? So I worked with him to remind him or even teach him of some of these things that a lot of us, we don't know what are best practices. So let's do some best practices. There's the structure of your content. So that's the word choice and how you're going to build your message, how you're going to tell a story, how you're going to make sure that you're keeping the audience with you, because most audiences can get bored and check out. And if you don't have an interesting content, that's one element. The other element is, how is your voice? How does your voice sound? Do you sound really boring and really monotone and you're just talking about things and everything is at the same level? That's awful. How do you sound like you care? Come on. I mean, I will say to the Nigerians and West Africans who are listening, I've spent some time in your lovely part of the world and you guys have energy. So I'm not concerned.
We have a lot of energy when we're speaking. We
You
put in
have
a
a
lot of
lot.
energy.
I feel like every time I go to a presentation or a speech or an event, a conference in Nigeria or Ghana, and like that's like I'm going to a revival meeting. I'm like, hey, preach. So there's great energy.
Yeah.
But remember that energy alone isn't enough. So depending on where you are, you need to think about, are you dialing it up? Are you dialing it down? If you're talking about serious gravitas type of issues, maybe we need to slow down and get lower in our voice to tell the audience, signal to the audience, hey, pay attention. This is serious. Now get excited. This is energetic. But having vocal variety is a learned skill. You don't sit down at the piano and begin to play a concert. You start and you learn and you get better over time. So your content, the words you choose, your voice, control, energy, enunciation, like former Mumbles who now speaks a global arena and global audiences.
That's great. Yeah, of course.
And then the next part is what you're seeing in those of you watching on the video, you're seeing right now, even through the screen, is our body language.
Yes.
So body language, voice, and the content, the words. Your body can be a connected or a disconnected part of your presentation. If you are so focused on your content that you're trying to memorize and you're trying to get every word perfect, you might forget to turn your face on like you care. You might be not aware, if you're on a stage, of what is the best way to stay in contact with an audience. Most people I would encourage don't move across the stage so much. A lot of people think it is great energy to walk and keep talking because they want to be using all of the stage, except it is often distracting if you look like a little robot and then you turn and you go.
Is it a bad idea for a speaker to be moving on the stage from one part to another? Because like to some people, yeah, it helps make the audiences feel more involved and more connected to the speech because you're moving from one side to the other, talking to them.
And I would disagree with that usually. I'm not someone who says you always need to do these certain things, but most people go too quickly, for one thing. Most people look like they're running away from someone trying to shoot them up on stage.
Oh, yeah. Very fast. Like faster than usual.
Faster than better. You will find the more prominent, experienced speakers, like look at a TED Talk. Those people aren't running around in that red carpet. They're staying solid in the center. If you have a big stage, I welcome my clients to take a couple of steps and lean in out towards the audience, or come over back to center and then take another step, one step over to the audience and lean in, but it shows more gravitas and confidence and control if you're standing comfortably. I think that movement can be effective, but have a reason to move, and don't just get into a back and forth for the sake of moving back and forth. I think movement like that is a very advanced skill.
What about body language? What about gesture, as in moving your hands and your head? Okay.
Yeah, real people gesture with their hands and their heads. So if you stand with your hands straight at your sides and you're not moving them, you look like a robot and you look uncomfortable. If you look uncomfortable, it makes your audience feel uncomfortable too.
Okay. So moving the hands.
Energize, sure. I mean, don't fly like a birdie.
Yeah.
That's not good.
For the musicians, for the rappers, the hip hop artists, they do something like this. Hello, nigga, what are you doing here? So what does that mean? Does it indicate informality?
Oh my
Would
gosh.
you expect
Look,
a university student to come on stage delivering a presentation in front of his professors to be doing, hey, prof, my name is Omar and I'm here. Yes, I'm here to present about this. You know?
That's so funny that you say that, because here's but you know what? You make a very good point, Umar.
Yeah.
College students, anybody listening, you're not the most important person in a presentation. Your audience is. So understand who your audience is. If your audience is your professor and it's a professor of hip hop and you've got a rapper as a professor, then by all means speak their language with your hands. If you're talking to someone who's maybe from like the financial sector, I would not do that. Likewise, think about the clothing choices. Think about your grooming. Think about the word choice that you use in a rap song is going to be different than if you were speaking to some other sort of an audience. So these are the choices to make, because you are trying to connect with the audience. So if you are overly formal in an informal setting, you might miss them. Likewise, if you are overly informal in a more formal setting, you're likely to lose credibility. So make some wise choices in your preparation. That's really important. Of course.
So that's why audience research is very important. Before you deliver a presentation, you need to know the kind of audiences you're going to address, so as to know the style you're going to choose when talking to them.
Of course. And it's not because you are being disingenuous or not authentic to yourself. It is that we all have lots of sides to ourselves. I have a more playful side. I have a more credible, gravitas, serious side. It depends on the topic. It depends on the audience. It depends on the stories or the points I'm trying to make. Is it a happy story? Is it a sad story? Is it a call to action? Is it a sense of urgency? I often tell my clients, write your content and then think about it from the point of view of your audience and move those pieces around like a jigsaw puzzle so that you bring the audience the information that's in their mind that they want to hear first. And also, the more that you can get comfortable with moving pieces around to their agenda, it helps you get more confidence about the decisions that you're making and why.
Okay. What about jokes when delivering a presentation? Because two things here. I read in a document that we use for teaching our students public speaking, that if you are good at cracking jokes, creating humor, then you can do that. But if not, then you can avoid it. How important or otherwise is it for people to discover whether or not they're good at creating humor?
Well, most people probably by the time they're, I don't know, 15, they know if they've got a decent sense of humor or not. I, for one, am the world's worst joke teller. I can't remember the punchline. I can't remember the setup. I am horrible. However, I do love humor and I like funny stories or funny observations on things, or just being spontaneous and making a comment about something that happened or a conversation I had with someone in the audience and bringing that back into my presentation. So I would be more observational, but I'm not usually very scripted. And I probably would not open up with, hey, did you hear the one about, I mean, I can't do that. I sound really forced and it feels uncomfortable for the audience. But I do definitely lean into my energy. I definitely tell stories that might have a funny bit in the story that was really something that happened to me, like that neighbor who called me Mumbles. I mean, that's true. And it is kind of funny while it's sad at the same time. And that's a true story. So we have what I like to share for audience or for clients is don't think your stories need to be that you climbed Mount Everest or that you jumped out of a plane. A lot of people think, oh, I don't have any stories. Everybody has a story. Even just sharing about how you and I were working together before we came on for this, and do we hold the microphone or do we change the lighting? I mean, these are stories of how we're trying to connect better with our audience, and that can be something that could be fun to share with an audience. So there are a lot of manuals or guidelines about the 6 ways to start a presentation. I encourage my clients to just enjoy the time. If you can think of a story that connects back to your point and you want to open that way, that's fine. If you want to give them something to imagine, that's fine. If you want to use the startling statistic, sure, do that. You can Google all those different.
Maybe if you want to open up with a shocking statement.
Sure. I mean, look, like I said, Google how to start a presentation and you'll find plenty of material. But find what works for you in that particular audience and the message that you're trying to deliver. Don't be formulaic, but do know there are best practice formulas so that will guide you and you're not stuck staring at a blank screen.
Yeah, sure.
It can be really hard. Another thing, get everything out. Just throw everything you're thinking of on your Word document or whatever you're working from to get your information out. I love using voice dictation tools to just talk through an idea, because then I can see it all in print and I can move it around and I can edit. I don't like trying to craft perfectly the first time. I can't do it. So I like to write in chunks. A lot of times I use on my phone the notes file, and I'll just say, here's an idea, and I'll put it in my presentation on imposter syndrome. I'll find a little nugget, or I'll have a conversation with you, and it reminds me that would be a good little anecdote, and I put it in. And then when I'm beginning to put it all together, I haven't forgotten some things, and I can get rid of some things, but I have lots of spices in my ingredient pantry that I can use and move around and hopefully make a delicious meal out of it.
Wow, that's excellent. I also apply this process whenever I'm going to have a program. I use my note folder, write almost everything that comes to my head, and then have some time to do the editing and expand. Okay, first of all, what I do is that I start with an outline of like 10 points, 20 points, and then I will look at the points one after another, and then expand it. When I expand it, then it becomes a full script kind of. So that's normally what I do. Then I come up for editing like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, until I'm satisfied that my script is okay and I'm good to go. So that's normally what I do. So is it a good idea?
Yeah, it is a good idea. Theming, outlines. I like to go for 3 points, probably no more if I could help it, because I feel like audiences and myself, I can't remember more than 3 main points. I try to make it simple is better. I try to do a point and a story. Connect that point with the next point and the next story. Connect that point with the first 2 and the third story. Great. Now wrap all those 3 in a final takeaway. Boom, I'm done. I mean,
wow. That's so professional.
Well, I mean, look, I was a reporter having to write packages and stories on something almost every day, and then updating that and delivering that and delivering that. And I did 120 videos, or excuse me, 120 live shots on one of my busiest day. And you're really practicing the delivery and the order of the words you're going to say, and still trying to keep that energy the same every time, because you can't look at take 119 like you're exhausted. You have to look like at take 119 that you're just as fresh and impacted by the words as you were the first time. And that's really important for people that deliver similar presentations, or you see politicians who are delivering the same speech. I know in Nigeria, you're just coming out of a very important presidential election. And
of course.
This is where you'll see a lot of this storytelling and this passionate delivery. And then for people who are in the content construction preparation point of view, to move into what you were saying, let's now learn the lines, let's learn the themes. You don't have to know every word, but know the order of where you're wanting to go, and begin to practice that out loud. That is critical.
No,
If
that's
you're
good.
not going to be delivering from notes, and I would encourage most of your audience to try to not deliver from notes unless it's highly, highly academic and you need to have a couple of research data points or dates or reference materials that you need to have in your mind. Try to get the introduction and a very strong "so what is in it for the audience" conclusion. And those 2 points are the most important points if you are going to really work on landing those messages. If you get yourself lost a little bit in the middle, it's okay, as long as you can keep your composure and move toward a strong finish.
Yeah. So what about the body of the presentation? Should it be conversational, informal, chatty,
Depends on the audience, depends on the topic, I would say most business presentations are probably too stuffy, are probably too technically jargoned. The more you can add a thread of humanity in it, the people in the audience will welcome that and be grateful, because the expectation is largely pretty low in those audiences to have anything that's really meaningful. It's not just projections and sales numbers and statistics, and they're like, oh, make it human.
Yeah.
If you can.
Make it more connected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if there's one more question, we can wrap, because I actually see that there's Yvonne Ridley is coming into our room, but I probably don't have a whole lot more time. We can wrap this topic.
Yeah.
Would you like, let's give an ending to this topic, and then I'll bring her in.
Yeah, of course. So in a minute or so, what can you say as a conclusion about the importance and significance of public speaking?
Thanks, Umar. Every one of you is capable of developing yourself to become a more confident and more comfortable public speaker. Know that. Also know that it doesn't happen overnight. Be kind to yourself. Get a coach. Begin to put into the preparation, the practice, and the performance techniques that I've shared. And find me on LinkedIn. Find me on Instagram. Let's get working together so you can make your next presentation great.
Thank you very much indeed, Gina London, for your insights and thoughts regarding this issue of public speaking. And I look forward to continuing with this issue whenever we have time, whenever you have time. Your time is my time, of course. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Umar.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording, and then she went away. So you're going to need to reach out to her and tell her that we're on the link, and we'll